Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Hossein Mohammadzade. It's an honor to participate in this conference today. My presentation will take about 15 minutes, and then we'll have time to discuss any questions you might have. Players around the world frequently come across the concept of resource wars in different video games. For example, in online strategy games such as Clash of Clans or Lords Mobile, one of the reasons, if not the main reason, to attack another village or turf is to gather resources. Players raid and start wars for resources, then use them to recruit troops and to upgrade buildings used for defending the village, producing resources, and recruiting troops. In Lords Mobile, which is similar to Clash of Clans in terms of fighting for resources, only strong turfs can move to the center of the kingdom where there are more resources. Moreover, weak turfs often function as farms for stronger players on the map to exploit. These video games are not just fantasy. Their realities are similar to our physical one, and they reflect the historical moment in which they were produced. Take, for instance, the condition of the Middle East in recent years. Then this system seems to be just reflecting the physical world where countries with an abundance of natural resources cannot really use those resources to develop their country. And the main thing that separates these game worlds from the physical world is that there is an illusion of ideological conflict which sugarcoats the reality that the main causes of these people's ever more suffering are not just their internal issues, but also their farming attractions. In order to refute the hypocritical claim that the conflicts in the region take place to promote democracy and freedom, just take a look at how Saudi Arabia and Iran are treated differently by world powers, especially the United States. However, uh, what this study is mainly concerned with is the future. These video games reflect the realities of the physical world, but can everything go on like this? Well, two very different game worlds seem to share a negative answer. Both in the retro-futuristic universe of Fallout 4 and the futuristic one of Detroit Become Human, players see an anticipation of a shortage of resources that leads to conflict and more resource wars in spite of their drastically different timelines and forms of technology. In the opening scene of Fallout 4, the players find out that the shortage of resources has led to a deadly competition which has not improved the lives of people, but resulted in war and destruction. And shortly after that, the players find themselves in a horrifying post-apocalyptic nuclear wasteland. Moreover, in this game, scavengers fight and kill each other for supplies. In the AI-driven 2038 of Detroit Become Human, some magazine articles mention resource wars. One of these articles expresses concerns about a war that might break out between the United States and Russia due to a race in the Arctic region for finding minerals used to produce androids and to develop new technology. One might argue that the current productive relations avoid a lack of supplies, which could create other types of war and turn people into scavengers, just like what we see in Fallout 4, and insist that the current mode of production and a chaotic free market is the only thing that could provide almost anything that mankind needs. Instead of criticizing the system, everything is then usually made about morality. Flexible concept that often makes it difficult to reach a common definition. However, there's an aspect that is ignored when discussions end here, and that aspect is the ever-growing corporations that are never satisfied and are always trying to expand their market and to promote mass consumerism to increase their profit, which leads to imperialism and then war due to creating a shortage of resources. A mismanagement of resources in these game worlds becomes evident with the military spending in both games, with power armors and nuclear bombs in Fallout 4, and the production of Android troops and Android sex workers while looking for surplus of resources in the Arctic in Detroit Become Human. A fetishization of fast progress and the future, as if there's a linear history in which only capitalism proceeds, usually justifies such policies, which often creates an which often create an environmental crisis that could again lead to conflict. Some other articles in Detroit Become Human, interestingly, talk about the environment and how people are concerned about safe places to live and clean food to eat, which shows that even the primary natural resources for human existence have been endangered. Similarly, uh, in the physical world, natural resources seem to have been poorly managed under current dominant mode or modes of production. The authors of Natural Capitalism say that protecting the environment is not costly but profitable. Interestingly, they use a capitalist discourse to advocate protecting the environment. Uh, and John Bellamy Foster in The Vulnerable Planet says that productive relations endanger the environment. In Detroit Become Human, technology and artificial intelligence have endangered the common man by their existence, their production, and their development. Therefore, when John Bellamy Foster asks, is technology the answer? This game seems to agree with his answer that technology by itself cannot solve environmental problems. Humans are also angry about androids taking their jobs in this game, which is interesting because the controlling controlling the production of androids would be much easier than controlling population growth or immigration. Therefore, it can be argued that in our physical world, where those androids do not exist, such economic systems welcome population growth, as it usually means there will be more consumers and there will be competition among the working class for obtaining a job instead of competition among the corporations or companies for employing people. In this game, Detroit Become Human, world population has reached 10 billion. Therefore, it can be argued that political speeches against population growth and against immigration are only a facade to cover the fact that due to commodification, humans are also considered as commodities, or to use a better term, resources. And for instance, oil wars lead to more workforce entering dominant countries, a workforce whose living standards have dropped to the extent that they will never object to a black job if they are allowed to maintain their refugee status deported. Such as Cara and Alice fleeing to Canada is discussed here as it would go beyond the scope of this study. Even if one believes the sincerity of such political arguments against population growth and immigration, the authors of Too Many People, Population, Immigration, and the Environmental Crisis say that populationist debates distract us from the real cause of our problems, which is the current economy, an anti-ecological capitalism advocating unlimited growth, which should be replaced. The main question of this research is, do these games implicitly suggest an urgent need to substitute dominant modes of production, or do they hint at gradual adaptation or reform of current economic systems or modes of production? In Fallout 4, the fight to change the wasteland or the Commonwealth leads to death, no matter what the player's choice is. In Detroit Become Human, androids die, at least in their own way, whether there's a peaceful demonstration or a violent rebellion. They both show that any type of pressure to force sudden or quick large-scale changes only ends in disaster and leads to death and destruction. In Detroit Become Human, a character named Josh insists on dialogue and avoiding a revolution that spills blood, while another character, North, insists on concepts like heroes and dying for a cause that is revolution. Moreover, androids are literally the working class in this game, and their situation is very similar to that of working class humans in the physical world. Further, the androids say that humans treat them as merchandise, which is a familiar concept due to constant commodification people experience under capitalism. Therefore, when revolutionaries naturalize dying for a cause, they are entering the same discourse as the capitalists they are trying so hard to challenge. By trying to stop pain and suffering, they create death. Such a revolution naturalizes commodification and trading human lives and is defeated even before it starts. As a result, pro revolution texts should now be considered as ideological because such a revolution is easily mocked and immediately discarded. Another reason for its dismissal is a history of its failure, such as the disillusionment after the Russian Revolution. In such a context, anti revolution texts might be closer to the voice of the working class. The very term revolution has to be revolutionized or become obsolete if it has not already. Even after a successful revolution, there could be a threat of further conflict leading to death, destruction, suffering, and poverty again. The very things that the revolutionaries intended to end. For instance, in one of the possible endings of Detroit Become Human, which interestingly shares the anticipation of using nuclear weapons with Fallout 4 and might make the players wonder why so much resources are spent on them, President Warren warns of a coming war after Marcus uses a dirty bomb. Finally, the only logical option that is left is gradual and peaceful change or reform, which might only occur through dialogue. The last point to be discussed here is that in cultural artifacts, there is an implicit dialogue of classes as Frederick Jameson says about literary texts in his book, The Political Unconscious. Therefore, it is now safe to say that in this way, video games confirm their significant place in society because they are, among other things, a place for a dialogue between different classes, which can then bring about meaningful change in our physical reality. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I think that really worked with the setup very well. And
Okay,
very interesting topic.
thank you.
Um, are there any questions? We would have time